my gosh, thanks for having
And
me.
here you are. Yay.
Here
So,
I am.
everyone out there listening in today, we have Jenn Rankin here. So, Jen, why don't you tell us a little bit about you?
Yeah, my name is Jen. I live in upstate New York now. I grew up in Europe, though. Fun
Oh,
fact.
wow.
I was born and raised there. I live in upstate New York now because my husband is from here and he grew up here. So we ended up coming back here after we got married. I have four kids, ages from 6 to 13, and we homeschool.
Well, that's
So
awesome.
that's a bit about me.
Cool. And you are their teacher, I assume.
Yes. I'm
Okay.
the main teacher. I am the main teacher, but we are part of some homeschool co-ops. So I will say there are other people involved as well.
Really cool. So, that's awesome.
Yeah.
So, do you work and homeschool as well, or do you stay home with them?
Yeah. So most of their years I was home, just stay at home mom, didn't work. And just this past year in February, I bought a small business called Wonder. I sell remineralizing tooth powder, but again, that's really new. Most of their childhood, I did not work. But it's
Okay.
exciting to be doing something different now as well.
Yeah, that's awesome. That's so cool. So, this has been an adventure then. I'd say four kids, you're their teacher. So, were you a teacher before you had children, or how does that work?
I was not.
No?
No. Thankfully, you can buy so much curriculum that is really, like, laid out for you. You don't
Mm.
have to have teaching experience necessarily. Like, you open the book and there's, like, a lesson plan and you just read it with them and you do the lesson. You can buy some that are so simple, and I think anybody could do it.
That's awesome. So, what did you do before you had kids?
Well, I had kids when I was 25,
Oh my
and I
gosh.
started kind of younger.
Yeah.
My first was born right after I turned 25. Before that, I went to Bible college. That's where I met my husband. And then I just worked restaurant jobs.
Okay. Wow. So, I didn't even know you went to Bible college. That's really cool. Where'd you go?
That's where we met, a small Bible college in North Carolina near Charlotte, called Fire School of Ministry. It
Okay.
is now closed, but yeah, that's where we met.
Oh, that's great. So, you were living in Europe. So, why were you living in Europe?
My parents were missionaries.
Oh, okay. Okay. So, your parents are from the United States, but
Yeah,
they were in
they're
Europe.
both American. Yeah, they both went over there when they were in their young 20s and lived there for almost 40 years.
Whoa.
So me and my
Where were
sister,
you in Europe? Like all over the place or in one specific spot?
I was mostly in Portugal and Italy. Those were my two main countries, but I also lived in Spain some and the Ukraine some,
Wow.
and just a lot of driving in between.
So cool. So, do you speak multiple languages?
I would say I still speak Italian pretty well. I understand Spanish really well too. I could definitely get around. I would say Portuguese is my probably my weakest language, even though that's where I was born and
Oh, you were
grew up.
born in Portugal.
Yeah, I grew up
Okay.
speaking Portuguese and English at the same time. Yeah, that's where I
Wow.
was
So,
born.
why
Yeah,
do you think that happened that it's your weakest language, I guess is like you just
I
didn't practice
when
it enough?
I think when I turned well, I moved to Italy when I turned 11, and both languages, Portuguese and Italian, are Latin languages, so they're very
Mm,
similar. So when I got to Italy, I was like, I got to learn Italian. I couldn't
mm.
communicate with anyone. So I just started learning Italian and I like dropped Portuguese. I never used it anymore. And I
Okay.
just quickly adapted. Within months, I could speak Italian. And then I just
Whoa.
like stuck with that.
Wow.
We homeschooled in English and spoke English at home. So I
Okay.
always like maintained English because that's what I did school in. So
Okay. Wow. What a
yeah.
cool childhood. So, actually, that was going to be my next question. So, you were homeschooled growing up.
Yeah, I was homeschooled because of all that traveling and
Okay.
all of that. Yeah.
So, how often? So, when you say travel, so you're in Italy, were you like moving from place to place in Italy?
Also, yes. So I not only did I move to different countries, I moved place to place in Italy or whatever country I was living in at the time. It was
Wow.
kind of
So,
crazy.
yeah, I can't even like, so how was that for you as a kid? Do you have siblings or like, was it just you?
I have an older sister.
Okay. So, what was that like? Like, not being in the same place for long? Was it hard to make friends? Was it
It
hard to
was
adapt?
it was hard to make it was more okay, so we didn't travel just by family. We kind of lived with a community of people. So the whole community moved together. So I would say my closest friends were in the community. So we all
Okay.
constantly moved together. So I did have those friends. We would meet friends though wherever we were. and then it
Yeah.
would be hard to leave them
Yeah.
because they would have to come visit us, or we usually wouldn't go back. They would just come visit us when they could, like, I don't know, on a vacation or a holiday, so
Mm.
we would see people again, but not like if we live near each other.
Okay. Wow.
Yeah.
Yeah, that sounds kind of hard. How big was the community? Like how many other kids were there in that community that you moved around with?
So Italy, like all my teenage years, that's usually what I think back on mostly.
Mm.
We were like 100 to 120
Oh
people.
my gosh.
Yeah, but
That's bigger than I thought.
that included the adults. The kids were, I don't know, 20, 30 kids. Yes, I mean, yeah, probably
That's
at least
big.
30.
Yeah, so where
Mhm.
did you so you're moving from place to place, like where did you live? Like where did you stay? I mean, with that amount of
We
people.
lived in kind of like tiny homes that were mobile. So we kind of had tiny homes before they were
What?
cool.
This
Yeah,
is
tiny
wild.
home.
How did I not know this about you? This is
It
crazy.
was
All
crazy.
right, so this is like a crazy different childhood. So how did this affect you going into like your marriage and like wanting to become a parent? Like what did you want to do as a parent differently from your childhood?
One thing was, well, like I said, I just have an older sister, and I
Mm.
do remember growing up feeling like I wish I had more siblings. I remember feeling that as a kid, like I wish our family was bigger. So I one of the big things I think was just like, oh, I knew that I wanted more than 2 kids. I was like, I think I'd love 4, but I would love to have more than 2. I knew my goal was more than 2, so we did land on 4.
Okay.
So that probably was something I wanted to do differently.
Okay. And like parenting wise, obviously, like you chose to homeschool. Was that something because you really enjoyed that growing up, or why did you choose to homeschool?
I chose to homeschool because I mean, there part of me probably was familiar with it because I
Mm.
was homeschooling. It didn't feel as intimidating because I had done it. That was part of it. But I thought that homeschooling would bring our family closer together. Like we would spend more time together and that would create, stronger bonds. That's
Mm.
what I was going for. I think that was my initial like reason, like probably
Yeah.
my biggest initial reason to do it.
Okay. Did that come true? Do you feel like your family is
You
closer?
know, that
No?
is that is a very complicated question. So you would think it's just like a straight yes. I think in a lot of ways, I will say yes. I just don't want to paint the picture that it's been like, oh, like perfect every day. I
Mm.
think there's also a lot of hard living together. I have 4 kids, so we're always together so much
Mm.
time, and I think there's a hard element to that too,
Mm.
which in some ways, like, they would always rub each other the wrong way or, you just have to
Mm.
grow so much being with your siblings and parents
Mm.
24/7.
Yeah.
There's been a lot of moments that have been hard, and honestly, those ones I'm like, "Well, did they take away from how close we were?" Maybe
Mm.
extra fighting, but then also looking back, like, my kids are close. They really
Mm.
are. Like they think they fight. They do fight a lot, and I would think that they're sometimes not close, but then they want to sleep in each other's bedrooms. And my girls, they're each other's best friend. They really are. They don't play with a lot of other kids other than themselves. They're
Mm.
home more than my boys are, so they really only have each other for the most part, most days.
Yeah.
So I will say, I think as they get older and older, they'll be like, "Oh yeah, like you were who I played with," you know?
Yeah. Yeah,
Yeah.
that's so cool. I mean, I was homeschooled as a
Oh, you
kid.
were? I did
Yeah.
not know that.
Yeah. I was
Oh,
homeschooled until high school, and then my mom gave me like the option if I wanted to go to public school, I could. Because I actually didn't do well with homeschooling. I don't know like if I just needed that social aspect.
yes.
Because we did a homeschool group, but it wasn't like a co-op where I went off kind of by myself type of thing. So yeah, I don't know. So I chose to go to public high school, and that was really good for me.
Good.
But I definitely have some very good memories of like, all working together and being home. There's 4 of us as well.
Oh, really?
Yeah, yeah. So I have 2 brothers and a sister. So I mean, it's like a good mix of memories of homeschooling.
Okay.
And my mom actually is a teacher, so
Good.
I
Do you
don't
think
know
that's
if that helped her. I mean, I definitely think there was a lot of hard moments, and I mean, I'm sure a lot of people out there have questions too, like, how did you choose your curriculum? Like,
right?
where's the best place to look? Where do you even start with that? Because I definitely have a couple of friends that have little kids, and they're like, I think I might want to homeschool. It's like, how do you even start?
So, as far as there's a lot of resources, and it can be almost to the point where it's overwhelming. There's so
Mm,
many options if you start looking into it. But I buy most of my books on christianbooks.com. It has almost every curriculum on there. There are a few others that you can buy, like used books. There's other ways to do it. And it also depends what co-op, if you choose to do a co-op. We've
mm.
also chosen to do a co-op that you had to buy a certain curriculum to be part of that co-op. So that would kind of limit you to what you're buying. Like if you want
Okay.
to be part of this group and kind of like what they're about, you choose that curriculum.
Mm.
In some ways that's helpful because it takes away like that decision. Um,
Yeah.
but I've changed also a lot along the way. Like one year for one kid, I would choose this curriculum, and it was like, okay, that wasn't my favorite, so then I'll choose a
Mm,
different language arts the next year and kind of like land on what I like. I do have things that I like now because it's our 8th year homeschooling.
mm.
So by now I've kind of landed on the things that I do like the best.
Yeah.
It doesn't have to be like, oh, in kindergarten, I have to have it all my perfect curriculum figured out. Like I've changed so much along the way that I'm like, it wasn't a big deal. Like you don't have to
Yeah.
have everything perfect, especially to start with. Honestly,
Yeah.
like get some books. It can be so simple.
I mean, you have 4 kids, so do you find that different curriculums work better for different children?
Yeah, I think so. Like I
Okay.
didn't even stick to the same curriculum. The thing that I've stuck to the most, I would say, like for all of them is math.
Okay.
I found what I liked and I kind of like stuck to that. But as
Okay.
far as language arts, I think there's yeah, a variety of all kinds of things. Science, a variety.
Okay.
History kind of depended if we were doing that at our co-op or not. Like
Okay.
everything kind of like changed other than I think math was what I stuck to the most similar. Like
Okay. Did you now, so with your languages or like Italian, did you start teaching them really young to speak
oh my
Italian?
gosh. Like I know. I do always wish I was like, I needed to teach my kids Italian. And when they were younger, we used to do this thing like I used to teach them every day a couple words, and my
Yeah.
boys were really into it. And then they started taking like Spanish at their homeschool co-ops or with it. Like I had a virtual teacher once for my girls, and they just kind of like landed more on Spanish.
Okay.
I help them with that because like it's easy for me. The words are all very familiar, and I can help with the pronunciation. But I don't
You
like
don't speak Italian to them.
yeah, I don't speak Italian to them. It's really sad.
Well, it's like they're still so young though too, because even you said you went to Italy and like you were a teenager and you learned it what in a couple months?
Yeah. I mean, I do think it helped that I already knew another Latin language.
True.
That does make a difference. But if they went there, if kids go to a country, I think they're going to learn a language fairly quickly.
Yeah. Yeah, I
No.
feel like they don't start young enough. You know, like my daughter doesn't learn a language right now, in 3rd grade. And I feel
Oh,
like it's just so much
yeah,
easier when they're that young to,
100%.
yeah, to just soak it up and
Right.
just learn it so much easier.
Right.
So, do you feel like, so were you overwhelmed with homeschooling at first or like how did it feel?
I was so overwhelmed to the point where I always questioned what was I doing.
Okay.
So I had all of them within 6 years. So they're all so close in age, all
Yeah.
four. So I will say I would have not gotten through the younger years without my mom. She was it, I think, starting my first year because by the time when my oldest started kindergarten, he was like 5, 6. And then I had all these three younger kids under 6.
Right.
It just felt crazy all the time. So for 3 or 4 years, my mom came um, 3 to 4 times a week, and
Okay.
she would come to watch the younger kids. So whoever I was doing school with, I did school with, and then she would at least watch like the toddler and the
Yeah.
baby or whoever.
Yeah.
We kind of like rotated kids around. So that's kind of how I got through the younger years. I will say if I had not had that, I may not be homeschooling still. I will
So
say
help, you need help, right?
that was, like, a big if you have
Yeah.
4 kids or more, I'm highly gonna, like, encourage you to get help, whether it's even get a house cleaner, anything you can do, like,
Mm,
I don't anything, like, get a mom's helper,
mm,
your mom, whatever, a grandmother,
mm,
an aunt, whoever has any availability, and I paid for this, not a lot, but I paid a little bit for it, and it was
mm.
so worth it. I don't think I could have gotten through my kids being that young
Yeah.
homeschooling.
Yeah. That's,
So,
yeah, I think that's great advice. Now, do you have a lot of help? So did you guys move back here to be closer to family?
Yeah.
Right? Now, was that something that you wanted to do differently from like your childhood of like always kind of not having roots somewhere? Did you want to kind of
Right.
form
Yeah,
roots?
I didn't wanna travel like I did when I was younger. I didn't wanna raise
Mm,
my kids that way, so we did wanna settle, and we kind of came here. It was family that brought us here, but also my husband's career,
okay.
so that was a big reason why, and we're still here.
Yeah. So you do like it and you do have, support here.
So now it just changed a couple, has it been? 1 or 2 years, my parents actually moved away.
Okay.
They lived here for 10
Oh
years
my
while
gosh.
my kids were growing up. Now they live in Michigan where my older sister lives, and they kinda went to help
Oh,
her because they were here for 10 years,
yes.
and now they're like, "Well, we've never really lived near your sister and her kids," so that made total sense. So now they actually are living in Michigan, and my in-laws don't live here either, so we actually don't have
Okay.
much help now, but I needed it a lot more when they were younger. Now,
Yeah.
a little older, and they can do a lot more work independently, especially my older 2,
Mm,
and that's so it's just a different world now. It just feels very different, and
yeah.
my boys are part of 2 homeschool co-ops, actually, my 2 older,
Okay.
so
Okay.
they get a lot of help and support there at this point,
Yeah.
so I'm so grateful for that. If I didn't have that, I still don't think I'd be homeschooling.
Yeah. I mean, it's
It's
a lot. I remember it being
really
a lot for sure. Now, I mean, have your kids ever like your older so your two boys are older and then your girls are younger. Okay. Um so did they have they ever asked to go to a different school or like has that ever come up or do they love being homeschooled?
if you'd ask them now, they would all say, I think they want to be homeschooled at this
Mm,
point. There were times where they asked, and we were always like, yeah, we're willing to, but it didn't seem like they were ever that serious. My oldest did go do one half day at a at a private school in the area, and he came home, and I thought he was gonna because I it was a he was kind of like at a place where I'm like, I don't think you like homeschooling.
mm,
I'm okay with you going to a school. So I let him like tour for like half a day, and he came home, and I thought he was going to choose the school, and he came home and said, "Mom, I'm not afraid of going, but I think I still want to homeschool." I was like, "Oh, really?" So he chose to keep homeschooling, and now he's in 7th grade. So
wow.
I don't see them changing at this point
Yeah.
because now all their friends are connected with their homeschooling. So
Right.
it would be kind of uprooting them from everything they know to go to a public school. I mean, I think it
Yeah.
can be done, but if they don't want to, I wouldn't push them in that
Yeah.
direction
Yeah,
necessarily.
for
It's
sure.
they're really
So
hard.
co-op wise, so the two boys get to go to a co-op how many days a week?
So they are going to one co-op that they go to is actually a drop-off program, and they're going there twice a week. And
Okay.
then another co-op that my family has always been a part of since we've started for this is our 8th year there. It's not a drop off. I stay there the whole time, and we all go there on 1 day a week.
Okay.
So the
So they're
boys
out of the house 3
are out of
days.
the house, like, 3 days a week. Yes,
Okay.
girls just one.
Yeah, that's cool. I mean, I think I would have really liked that
Yes,
option.
it feels like the best of both worlds
Yeah.
because especially my oldest is like very social, like you were saying,
Mm,
and like you wanted more of that social, and that was him too. And he kind of came at that crossroads where I thought he was going to go to school, but then we ended up finding this co-op where he could get dropped off at and
yeah.
be around friends more days a week than one. And
Yep.
it felt like that was like the perfect medium. He started to really thrive once he started going
Yeah.
there. And then he
That's
didn't
really
want to
cool.
go.
Yeah, I
Yeah.
think another thing that I struggled with, and I don't know how the best way you do this with your kids is like I needed this like really strict structure, and I didn't feel like I got that with homeschooling. Like when I went into the school, obviously like you're in a classroom and like you can't just like mess around or like be lazy or whatever. And like I really really struggled with that with schoolwork. I have a very wandering mind, so like being home and being responsible for my schoolwork on my own, especially like in middle school, I didn't want to do it.
Uh,
Um,
I think you hit the nail on the head. That is one of the hardest parts of homeschooling is you're not all of a sudden like in a classroom setting with a teacher that's not your parent and everyone's
mhm,
doing the same thing and they're at a desk and you don't just go wander around. Like that's not acceptable there. And
right.
it's everyone just is like, yeah, like this is what we're doing at home with your parent.
Yeah.
Home is really familiar. You're familiar with your parent. I would say that is one of the hardest things to keep the kids on track
Yeah.
and really having a structure. I would say that is one of my still hardest, so one of my hardest things to deal with.
Yeah. I mean,
Is
and I
that
think some kids just work so much better that like my sister, she really thrived with homeschooling and she went through all the way to her, her senior year
oh,
and
okay.
graduated and but she just has a very different mindset or not mindset, but just way of learning where she can be so disciplined. And I mean, I'm very disciplined now with certain things, but as a kid, I just didn't have that yet. I was like too immature or something. And it just never clicked homeschooling for me. So yeah, I mean, I think that really helped having that, I mean, strict structure, I guess, even though like public school isn't like strict, but like you said, that you're in a classroom and like that stuff isn't acceptable. Like you can't just get up and like walk out of the room. And so I needed that someone to whip me into shape, I guess you can say.
Yes.
Yeah. Yeah.
I would say, yeah, with some of my kids, like on their, depending on their personality, I have like some of what that are like your sister and some that are like you. I
Mm-hmm.
mean, when you were a kid, and some kids are easier. They just are okay with getting their books out and they're like, yeah, this homework's due and I need to do it. And they just
Mm-hmm.
like do it. And then others are like, well, what can I, like, how long can I
Yeah.
push it off for today?
Exactly.
Like
Yeah.
you constantly are like, okay, like let's finish the math lesson. Let's knock it up until that is done. That is definitely, yeah,
Yeah. So
a
just kind of be
struggle.
prepared for that, I guess.
Yes, yes, be prepared. Especially if multiple kids, you're gonna have kids with like different personalities. Like
Yeah.
they're gonna be different.
Right.
And one kid's gonna be they're gonna love just sitting down and
Mhm.
writing and writing and writing. And then other kids are like, when can we go outside and play? Like
Right.
this is so boring. You're like,
Off
trying to
daydreaming
find that
and
balance of
yeah.
like, yes, letting them play, and then okay, well, we do need to learn how to spell at some point,
Right. Right. Finding that structure.
Yeah.
So, where do you see yourself going with your new business and homeschooling, in
Oh,
the future? What do you see yourself
yeah.
doing?
So I don't see myself giving up homeschooling. I knew I didn't want to take this job if it meant giving up homeschooling. So that's still going to be like the main part of my life.
Mm,
Parenting, especially my kids at the ages they are right now, and homeschooling them. And my business, I'm excited about it. I'm so happy that I get to do it from home.
yeah.
That's why it kind of works. And I can make it work at night or in the morning or when my boys are at their co-op and I have a little more free time.
Mm,
It's very flexible and that has been like the perfect thing. I never expected to own a business. This really came out of nowhere and I never expected to work
yeah.
actually. And then this kind of like came into my life, like kind of like fell in my lap, and I was like, oh wow. I mean, I was so excited. It just was not in the plan. But
Yeah.
I'm so excited that I can do it at home. It's flexible. I love doing it, and I'm hoping to see it grow.
That's so cool. Can you tell
Yeah.
us a little bit about it before we hop off? So, what is Wonder?
Yeah. So Wonder, the website's called Wonder Oral Wellness, and we sell oral care products. So it, our main thing that we're known for is remineralizing tooth powder.
Hmm.
Basically, it is a substitute for toothpaste. You would replace your toothpaste with a powder. And it sounds very weird, but I promise you, once you start using it for a couple weeks, it becomes totally normal. Some of my kids are even like, we don't even remember using toothpaste. So it can become normal. It is super clean, meaning there's no toxic ingredients in it, and it is a powder because I don't want to add water to it, so I don't have to then have a preservative. So we have no preservatives, no chemicals, no fluoride. It's remineralizing, which most um, toothpaste out there are not remineralizing.
What does that
So
mean?
it means that it adds minerals back to your teeth.
Oh,
So it
okay.
strengthens your enamel. So enamel is where your cavity is going to be starting, is like on your enamel. But remineralizing means that it adds minerals back to your teeth and it strengthens your enamel. So hopefully you wouldn't even be getting cavities. And if there's a small cavity forming, it could even reverse a small cavity.
Wow.
Yeah. So we use hydroxyapatite instead of fluoride to remineralize. And it
Okay.
is a naturally occurring mineral that we have in our bones. So it's something our body's more familiar with anyway.
Wow.
Yeah.
That sounds so cool. So we
Yeah.
can purchase this right on your website?
You can. Yeah.
Okay.
wonderoralwellness.com.
That'd be cool. And
You
where can
can
we find you on like social media and all those places?
on Instagram, Wonder Oral Wellness, and
Okay.
Facebook, Wonder Oral Wellness.
Really cool. I'm so excited for you. This is such a fun adventure.
So, yeah.
Have you enjoyed like balancing the both of them, like doing something for yourself and still being able to be there for the kids?
I've really enjoyed doing something different. For so many years,
Mm,
I was just mom and homeschool. It was really exciting to do something different. Like I had not experienced that in so many years, doing something different. It was really exciting. But I will say it was a hard transition for my kids because they were used to me never even being on the phone. Like I didn't like
mm,
it was my whole world revolved around them and homeschooling and like field trips and like play dates and like that was my whole world. So I didn't even like I didn't have to do work calls and you know
mm,
Zoom calls and all of a sudden I was like doing calls and so for them it was hard. I think
mm,
they felt that tension of like, wait, where's mom? Like she was
mm,
here all the time, like 24/7.
mm.
So that has been a hard balance because I feel sometimes that pull, like which one should I do
Yeah.
right now? It like the mom or the business,
Yeah.
because I feel the pressure of both now.
Yeah.
But
That's
I,
hard. I mean, I feel like that comes with time too. I mean, you're still
it's
what
been
you said your first year into it.
a
Yeah.
year.
I mean, that never really goes away, but I feel like you learn how to balance it. And your kids understand too, that they're a little bit older now and you're doing something for yourself and your family,
Right,
ultimately.
right,
And yeah, they
totally.
do get it eventually. But
Yeah,
it's like, just that mom guilt is there a little bit. But don't feel guilty. I mean, if it makes you feel good, your kids are going to realize that. That you're working
right,
hard towards something that you care about and you know is good
yeah,
for our world and good for human beings.
totally.
So I feel like that means a lot.
Yeah, and they've seen me grow so much over it. A big
Mm,
reason I even said yes to it was I felt like I was even doing that for my kids.
mm,
I wanted them to see me do something hard, something I
mm.
hadn't done before, and really like had to be stretched in ways that I hadn't been in so long, like different areas
Yeah.
in homeschooling. Like, I mean, yeah, it's been endless
Yeah.
the amount of things I've had to do that felt hard and stretching. And I think they've seen me grow, and I think they're seeing me become a different person. So a big part of it was like I wanted to do that for them and I
Mm,
wanted to be an example and I wanted them to learn how to do hard things.
yeah.
So it just felt like a gift all around that
Yeah. Yeah, a
came into
hard gift. Yeah. I mean, small business owning is not easy, that's for
no,
sure. But it
no.
does. I mean, you are setting such a great example. And it is funny how kids kind of bring that out of us. Like, I didn't open my own business until my daughter was born.
Oh,
And,
okay.
they do kind of bring that out of you where you're like, all right, like, I want to make a
Right.
change. And, like, I want to
Yeah.
show them that, like, it is possible to have children and, own a business and,
Something. Yeah.
be able to balance it. And yeah,
Right.
yeah, it's really cool. Well, Jen, thank you so much. And I'm going to link everything below so people can find you. And do you mind if people reach out about homeschooling if they have any questions or anything?
Absolutely. Reach out about homeschooling anytime. I do love talking about it and I don't mind talking about it at all. I
Okay.
don't mind asking people any questions. I would love that.
Awesome. Thank you so much. This is like great information. I think people are going to love it.
Awesome.
All right. I'll
Thanks
talk
again.
to you later.
Okay, bye.
Bye.